First speaker is Mr. Tim Lewis, unarguably one of our best speakers in this club and most talented. Uh, Pressing a button is only half the picture when you're making an image. What you do after the fact is often more important than what you do to take the picture. Here to talk today about using and adjusting how an image feels with color and density is Tim Lewis with Manipulating Images in Post-Processing. Please welcome Tim Lewis with his speech, Manipulating Images in Post-Processing. Please welcome Mr. Tim Lewis.
Thank you very much, John, and everyone. I make a lot of pictures. I take them, usually set up lights and a camera, some kind of reflector, get some poor soul to sit in front of me, and then I push a button and capture an image. But oftentimes I realize what happens after that fact has far more impact on the image itself and the image that I'm going to create. Putting the picture into my software, I usually start with a program called Capture One, and adjusting it brings the image to life, takes it from what's often a flat, kind of uninteresting image into a whole colorful world. And there's a whole psychology of color that I've been looking into more and more. The idea that certain tones can bring out certain emotions in the subject. This is one of the things that initially drew me to photography. The idea that you can kind of subconsciously hack the viewer, just a little bit. You present a picture of something, but it has a feeling to it that they respond to without even really noticing it. It's kind of like a really great speech. You're using your pauses, you're using your vocal variety, you're using your emotional range to tell people how to feel about the subject you're presenting to them. And that's what I really like about photography, and that's what I really like about public speaking at the same time. So I thought today it'd be an interesting experiment to share my screen and practice telling somebody how I work through an image, just kind of from the beginning to the end, and show what goes into and what my thought process is when I'm creating an image and trying to make it as effective as possible. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'm gonna share my screen. Hopefully you all will be able to see it along with me, and we'll just work through an image really quick. I'm gonna do it a couple different ways to show how you can achieve different feelings with the same picture. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to do that now. All right, hopefully everybody can see my screen. Please give me a thumbs up if you can. Excellent, excellent, thank you. So this is a picture that I took a couple of years ago probably, and we never wound up using it for anything. There's a young lady that I know in the area, and we were working on a project for we wanted to do something about mythological modern ideas. So kind of like a new take on old myths. So hence the aluminum foil mask and this weird light projection thing that I threw back there. Now, the first thing that you want to think about with an image is what's the density of it? How dark is it and how light is it? Is the contrast really high or really low? Because when an image is more dark than light, people looking at it will feel, oh, that's mysterious. Oh, that's ominous. So that's kind of the first place that I like to go. This slider right here is the entire histogram of the thing, and the middle is the midpoint. So just by dragging it this way, I can darken up the whole image and just I'm pushing the middle lightnesses down by dragging it to the right. And if I go to the left, I start to push them up, which is just a very easy way to adjust the overall contrast. So for this one, I'm going to go a little mysterious, a little dark. It feels ominous to me. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull that way. I'm gonna pull some of the saturation out because it's getting a little high. And one thing I like to do is make the darkest parts of the image kind of really dark, if that makes sense. So I'm gonna drag the blacks even down further. This kind of adds the shadows and makes them really pop. That's not bad right there. And then I like to recover a little bit of detail in the blacks just so it doesn't get too dark. Now in Capture One, it's broken out in these different tabs up here. You have luminosity and then you have color right next to it. So when I switch over to the color panel, we have color balance. And this is where I do most of my work, honestly. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this one so we can do it in two different ways. And for my first one, looking at the picture, I want to go kind of a warm-ish profile on this one. So for shadows, I'm going to go kind of a purple. And you can see that I'm adding purple to the shadows themselves. What's interesting about this is I want to offset the green. And if we look at the color wheel, green and purple are sort of across from each other. So using color theory, I can kind of minimize the intensity of the green without actually taking the green away. Moving to midtones, I can start to push it in sort of a yellow or a golden direction, which is going to make it nice and warm, and maybe lighten up the shadows or the midtones just a tiny bit. Thank you, sir. And then the highlights aren't going to need much work at all, so I'm just going to mostly leave them where they're at, kind of bluish maybe, and pull it down just ever so slightly. So that's it. Really quickly, I've gone from this image, which is where we started, to this image, which I think you'll agree just has a slightly different feel. It's sort of, we've emphasized the mysteriousness. We've made it a little bit more sophisticated, I would say, you know, kind of going back and forth. It doesn't look as straight out of the camera, which is a thing that I like. Now, if we wanted to go the opposite direction, let's say I wanted to make this more cold and distinct and far away, kind of ominous, instead of the yellow that we pushed towards in the last one. We still have the green hair, so I still kind of want to get some blues in there to play off of that. Well, let me put it on shadows. So I'll push the shadows towards blue. Right away, you start to notice. Thank you, sir. And then I'll go towards cyan, maybe even a greenish cyan, you know, for the midtones. And then I'll take the highlights to orange, kind of yellowish. And you can see really quickly, it becomes frostier. The room feels colder now. And immediately, you don't feel as welcomed into the space, if that makes sense. If I go back to the first one that I did, this edit feels much more, I don't know, magazine-ish to me. Whereas this one just feels like it'd be in an advertisement for chewing gum that makes you feel real cold for some reason, something really minty and fresh. Yeah. And they're both very different from the first one. Now, this program is extremely sophisticated, and you can do all kinds of crazy stuff with layers and applying a color to a certain area of the image or just to the lightnesses or the darknesses. But I do feel like all of this, thank you, sir. All of this is, I have no idea how to stop sharing. There we go. I feel like all of this is adding up to a quick and easy way to explain how images are manipulated after we take them, after we've got them in the computer. Taking an image and making it warmer and lighter, more inviting, makes it more summery, more spring-like. Taking it to the bluer colors and making it colder, making it darker, makes it feel like a long winter day, you know, up in the snow. And I feel like once you start to recognize that, you can take your images using whatever editor you're using. You can take your images to the next level. Thank you very much.